Hi everybody and welcome back. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is April and this is Plan with April. So I filmed yesterday and I went to upload the video on YouTube and somehow I deleted it. I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened, but here we are and we're starting over. So this is how I laid it out in yesterday's video that you'll never see because it's gone forever. I used the Hobo Cousin Out of the Woods pages 1 and 2, and then I also had this Out of the Woods emoji sticky notes that I added onto the kit. So I did a little bit different on, grab something to drink. What I'm going to do is fill some of this in. I did do my meal planning for the week, but I only did 2 meals because I think they're going to get us through to Thursday because of leftovers. Grab something to drink. So on the stove right now, I have some cubed elk steak. Wes doesn't do meat at all. Especially like store-bought meat, but every once in a while a friend will gift us, some wild game that they get. So that's what happened. We got a couple of elk steaks and then I think some venison backstraps in the freezer. So I wanted to write down what I did for the marinade because what I turned the marinade into might surprise you. So I'm going to put that down here. Is really scratchy. Growing up, my grandpa was always a hunter, so having wild game wasn't anything strange to me, and same for Wes. He grew up in the country, so having venison for dinner wasn't anything out of the ordinary. He doesn't care for the taste of it anymore, so I have to get really creative on how I marinate it and how I cook it. So for this elk, what I did is I cut the steaks, they were just steaks, into cubes, maybe 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. Let me see, how big is that? Yeah, about 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, so not very big. And then I put them in, here's the marinade, 2 cups of orange juice, and you could use orange juice, you could use lemon juice, you could use any citrus juice. So 2 cups of orange juice, 1/4 cup. Oh, that one's not writing very well either. What is going on with my pens this morning? 1/4 cup of strawberry jam. You could use grape. You could use jelly. You could use honey if you had honey on hand. Right now, honey is super expensive, so I haven't really been using honey in any of my recipes. I've been trying to find things that I can substitute out. And then 1/4 cup barbecue sauce, 2 dashes, I know that it seems kind of weird, 2 dashes of red wine vinegar. Why couldn't I think of that? And if you don't have red wine vinegar, you could substitute apple cider vinegar. That would totally work. You just need a solid acid. And you'll notice a lot of this is acid. So what I'm trying to do with this meat is break down that gamey flavor to it. And you can do that one of 2 ways. You can either really, set it in a lot of acidic stuff to pull it out, or buttermilk. Either one works. But this marinade, after the elk sat in it for, only 2 hours, I pulled the elk out, strained it out, cooked it, all of the elk, and then I cooked down the marinade. So the marinade actually has all of that flavor in it. It has, all of that flavor in it. We're going to do 1 tablespoon each. Minced garlic, onion powder. Remember, this is the marinade. Basil, rosemary, and these are all dry. Garlic powder, I did garlic powder too. I'm like, did I do garlic powder with the minced? I did, because I like garlic. And then I'm trying to think, there was something else. Oh, believe it or not, poultry seasoning, because I was out of sage. You could do just sage if you have it. I didn't, so I had to pull out the poultry seasoning, and it worked just fine. And then to finish all of this off, I did, actually it was 1 tablespoon of crushed red peppers too. So crushed peppers. And let me think back, was there anything else I added into this? I don't think so. I think that was the combination. 1 tablespoon of salt and pepper. And then what I did, like I said, I marinated the elk in it for a couple of hours and then strained the elk out, boiled down the marinade so I made sure it was completely cooked, and added a little bit of Worcestershire to it, and a little bit, probably more than a little bit, maybe half a cube of butter as it was cooking to just kind of thicken it up a little bit. And then I browned up probably a pound. It's just whatever I had left in the fridge. I had about a pound of mushrooms, both white button and the baby browns, like the baby brown portobello mushrooms. Just slice those up really good and then put those in, browned them until they got just a tiny bit crispy, but really, really earthy smelling, and threw it all in the sauce with the elk and all that. It's gonna stay in the fridge this week, and I'm gonna make it on Tuesday. And then I'm gonna put a little bit, probably 1/4 of a cup of heavy cream in it. And then I'm going to do egg noodles. I'm like salivating as I'm telling you this. So it's going to be, a little over egg noodles, which I think will be really, really good. And then I will either put fresh parsley over it or fresh chives, I don't know, and give it a little bit of a zip. The other thing that I am doing is an elk stew. That is on the stove right now. I almost wrote elk stove. Elk stew. We're going to be able to eat on this for a couple of days. That's why I said I only planned 2 meals this week, because the stroganoff is also going to be something that we eat off of for a little bit. And it's going to be an elk and mushroom. We're going to write shroom, strog, because I don't know how to spell the rest of Eganoff. Stroganoff. Eganoff. Stroganoff. Yeah. So those are the 2 that I have picked out this week. If I need to figure out something later on the week, I sure will. I know I want to try my hand at making Japanese dumplings. I got the recipe and I ordered the little dumpling makers off of Amazon. So I'm excited to try that. I got my sourdough starter for my niece. It's bubbling and happy on the counter. So, excuse me. I also need to get that going. Haha. Okay. So I did want to make a list of things that I had. So I'm trying to live out of the pantry this week for dinner, only using things that I have on hand. So, you know what? For the beef stew or the elk stew, I also added a small can of tomato sauce to it. I really think that acidity in the tomato as the elk continues to cook and stew helps pull out some of that gaminess. I don't mind it, but again, Wes is not a big fan of it. So if I can just make it super tender and super tasty and not make it taste like elk, he's cool with it. So I have tomato sauce from the pantry. I have egg noodles that I'm using this week from the pantry. So these are all items that I'm using from our pantry, or I guess our stock, both fridge and pantry. Oh, I just goobered that. Darn it. I'm going to have to write a little bit nicer. Is this a 10? I thought this was a 7. Huh. It's really juicy today. Maybe I will switch to, I thought I had a 7 in here. Oh, I have a 3.5. Maybe I'll switch to this one since I am doing a lot of writing. 0.35. Egg noodles. And then I also had tons of spices, of course. And then in the fridge, I have carrots, which went into the stew. I had 3 red potatoes. So I only put 1 in the stew. So I have 2 more that I could do, maybe some hash browns for breakfast and do like breakfast in the tins, the muffin tins. We love those. Or I could do egg bites too. So I'm going to do, I have a dozen eggs. I have smoked cheese. I have about a half cup of heavy cream left over. I have orange juice and grape juice because we had our granddaughter this weekend. Let's see, what else do I have? Of course, I have my elk in the freezer, or did until I took it out. And then onions. I had onions as well. Trying to think if I used anything else. Worcestershire and things like that. Big words that I can hardly pronounce that I'm not going to try to write down and spell. So for meal prep, really super, super easy. Make the marinade. Dice the meat. Dice the meat. In fact, what if I covered that up? Covered that up right there. We're going to do since I'm not going to spell the whole thing out anyway. There. Elk and mushroom strog. It looks German. It's all good. Look, I'm even doing that. My poor hand is just not participating well today with all of this. I wonder if it's because I put lotion on. So it's like smudging. I don't know. Anyway, so dice the meat. And mushrooms. And onions. And carrots. Perfect. And then I just pretty much left everything to do its own thing, dumped it all in my big Dutch oven, enameled Dutch oven, put it on the stove, put the other stuff in the fridge for this week, and I'm set to go. I will look at maybe making a breakfast for this week. I used to make Rhodes rolls, the frozen ones, all the time, and they've always turned out perfect, except for one time they didn't raise, but I think it was the temperature in our house. Anyway, I had Wes throw them in the oven last week, 9 of them, and they stuck to my Dutch oven like crazy. And I'm like, that has never happened before. So we couldn't like get them out, like they were just falling apart. So I ended up putting them, I cubed them up and put French toast stuff over it. So scrambled eggs, heavy cream, vanilla, some cinnamon, mixed it all up, and then just poured it over in the casserole dish. Baked it for an hour at 350, and we ate it with syrup for breakfast. And it was good, and it was a great way to salvage that bread that we weren't going to be able to use, for dinner rolls. So always think outside the box. I'm really trying to live out of my pantry this week. I probably will make a loaf of bread. I have a really super easy recipe. It's 3 cups of flour, 1/4 tablespoon of yeast, and then 1.5 cups of warm water, and then a teaspoon of salt. Mix it all together, put cellophane over it, leave it for up to 24 hours. I bake it in my Dutch oven, and it is so easy. I think it's 20 minutes in the Dutch oven with the lid on, and then 15 without, or maybe it's 30 and 15. I think it's 30 and 15 at 400 degrees. Super easy. Every loaf has turned out amazing. I haven't had a fail yet. So I know this was a really chatty plan with me, and I apologize that I deleted the video yesterday that I had for you, but we did get some of this filled out, which I was really worried I wasn't going to. And then throughout the week, I do have on Friday to go back plan. And then next week, I am completely off of work. So that's going to be a fun plan with me that I will do next weekend and kind of show you guys if I don't do it later on today. I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. I want to finish Game of Thrones. And I did post on YouTube a question, or not a question, well, kind of. If you have a question for me that you want me to answer, definitely find that post and put a question. There's one question there right now. I'm hoping to get a couple more before I do the Q&A filming. So hang tight with me. If you have a question, you can even put it down in this video too, since you're here. I will talk to you soon. I hope you have the very best week. Thank you for being here. I love you. Bye.